Hey guys, SGT here, and I have a new friend on the line, somebody who wants to help us all get a better understanding of what life in hyperinflation looks like. It's Barry from the Dominican Republic, and Barry has a site called drescapes.com. Barry, thanks for joining us.
Sean, it's my pleasure. Thanks for the opportunity of speaking together with you.
I think this should be a great joy for everybody, Barry, because I know that one of the keys for you that you want to share with everybody is the importance of having an escape plan. You used to live in Argentina in 2001, and you experienced the bank closings and the hyperinflation in Argentina firsthand and the chaos that went with it. Why don't you tell folks how horrible a situation that is and what you might tell people they should plan to prepare for should we hit hyperinflation in the States?
Yeah, I was actually checking out living there through a friend. I was there for about 6 months, and the absolute chaos when they unannounced just closed up the banking system and froze accounts was, you have no idea what ugliness can be when that happens to people. I've actually been living outside of America since 1984. I've lived in 5 countries, and I've gotten a fair bit of experience of what happens in situations like this, and it's almost like a 3-legged stool. Without a balance of all 3, the stool topples. It doesn't matter. Most people on your website particularly, they're in tune. Your listeners or your crowd is in tune, but the point they're missing is the value of sovereignty and an escape route.
Let's talk a little bit about having an escape plan. You're in the Dominican Republic. Tell people what that is like. Is that a friendly country to Americans, or would you recommend people get a second passport and check out the Dominican Republic? What's life like down there?
You know, it's absolutely total freedom. It's another clear example of how MSM has brainwashed people through misinformation. If you go ahead, Sean, and I would bet my last piece of silver, if you asked 50 people, what does third world mean? They're going to give you these horrendous stories of a grim, faceless nation with poverty all around it, crime, and so on and so forth. And that's exactly what the mainstream media wants. You have to understand where the term originally came from. It came from post-World War II. The world was split into 2 main worlds. There was the capitalist West world. That was called the First World. Then there was the communist socialist Eastern side. That was called the Second World. The term Third World actually came from countries that had not yet determined which system they wanted to fit into. So it was basically a battle going on between the West and the East to push their systems into this undefined Third World. Ever since then, the media has portrayed it as a shady world. So nothing can be further from the truth.
Okay, and for those of us who have never visited the Dominican Republic, tell us just a little bit briefly. We're trying to keep this to a 1-part interview, and there's so much to cover, Barry, because you're such an interesting guy. Tell people what the Dominican Republic is like. What does that process look like?
I would say the first step is to actually come on down and visit. We have what we call through our website, drescapes.com, we have a Discover Your Destination tour. That's about a 3-day tour that we donate our time to show people up and down the north coast of this country. And I want to make it clear it's not the only country. There are several beautiful countries to consider. But what we take for granted in freedom, the Western world has long since forgotten. It couldn't even put into words. We grow our own crops. Our diet is natural. Pesticides are not running rampant here. We have no big brothers over your shoulder. It's just an element of freedom that has been forgotten decades ago in the Western world. Basically, I'm a big fan of any country that still gives a person the ability to be an adult. And for example, you're going to find survival is going to be teetered on third world countries because it's coming more apparent. It doesn't matter how many ridiculous new laws are passed. What actually matters is, does the government have the power to enforce them? And that's a very key step people need to understand. Here, there is no zoning laws. If you buy a piece of land, you can grow crops, you can build a house, you can start a little store. You have the freedom to do what you want. You're not being taxed to a ridiculous amount. I mean, in many cases, there is no land taxes. And it's just freedoms that have been slowly taken away from the Western world one at a time. I'm sure you could relate to what I'm talking about just by following your website. You're going to find out that there's, oh my God, they can't do this. This is against the Constitution. Well, get used to it. It's already been done. Everything's over but the yelling. In these countries, that's non-existent. The education system on a private education is very affordable. Our children are speaking 3 languages fluently here by the time they're age 9, and I'd put them up against any students in the Western world. You're not getting the accurate information, but it's every bit. It's like the old analogy of a 3-legged stool. Your people are stacking. That's a no-brainer. Now they're being told to start preparing with food, meds, weapons, ammunition. The only part of this I don't understand is why would you even want to subject yourself to live in something like that? And they're completely missing the third part, which is an escape route and a second passport. All through history, the one thing man learns from history is we never learn nothing from history. All through the times, there was royalty that was slaughtered, and there was peasants that flourished by understanding sovereignty. And that's what we're trying to get across to the people, and it's just been a phenomenal success.
Yeah, we also know that those that don't understand history, those that don't know history, are condemned to repeat it, which appears to be exactly what's happening in this country. How people can't see, recognize, and understand that we are now living in essentially a police state, and how they don't understand the horribly negative ramifications for liberty based on that police state is just beyond me. And, case in point, I look at the brainwashed zombies at the RNC supporting that debacle, same with the DNC, and these people that are aligned with these parties, regardless of truth, regardless of what the parties stand for or don't stand for, it just astounds all of us.
The one thing that people aren't understanding, and it's going to be a detriment to them, is your assets become your liabilities. When a nation's currency crashes and you're stuck in that nation.
Yeah, let me explain for people what you mean by that. I think what you're saying there, Barry, is that when the nation's currency collapses, and people know, your friends and neighbors who you've been trying to inform, but they didn't listen. They know you're prepared. They know you've been stacking precious metals, perhaps. They know you've got food in the basement. They know you have firearms. And now they're going to be looking to you for help because they didn't take steps to prepare. I think, is that what you mean by your assets become your liabilities?
Absolutely. You'll never see violence, and you'll never see such desperation as parents trying to feed their children when they're hungry. And that's the whole reason why the second arm of a military that conceits after any war, you'll find the brass tells the victorious side, make sure after disarmament, the next rule is make sure the enemy is fed before your own soldiers. Because they know nothing will cause raging lunacy as watching your family starve. And many people are not really seeing this. They're giving me excuses when they first meet me. Oh, well, I have a job and the kids are in school, and my answer to them is, do you really think any of this is going to be going on when the country's in turmoil? And they've never thought about it.
They've never thought about it, which actually brings me to another thing that I once heard you say, Barry. You said that the costliest thing in the world is a closed mind. That's so true, especially when it comes to preparation and people's unwillingness to prepare because they have a normalcy bias. They can't believe that any of the things that we talk about are true. They can't believe that there could be a currency collapse. They can't believe that there could be financial Armageddon in the Western world. They can't believe that grocery stores could someday in the near future be bare because they have closed minds.
You know what, Sean? Quiz many of your listeners who I've been an avid fan of yours for a lot longer than you know, and I challenge you to quiz any of your audience and replace America and add in North Korea, Russia, Poland, any other country you want, and they're going to tell, oh yeah, it's been happening there for ages. Of course, we all know that. So you see, the problem is not understanding what's happening. The problem is a geographical problem of where it's going to happen. That's what they're stuck on.
Well, in terms of what we see happening in the world, Barry, I'm not sure that there are very many safe places to flee, and I'm not suggesting that anybody, pack up ship and head to the Dominican Republic. I think it sounds like that's a great place to explore, and they can certainly get in touch with you. Before we let you go, we'll get your contact information, Barry, should people have questions. I would prefer to see people stand and fight for liberty, because I think that at the end of the day, that is the choice humanity needs to make. Turning tail and running, that isn't going to save us from the New World Order. What needs to happen, Barry, is that the NWO needs to be defeated and liberty needs to be reinstated here in this country and around the world. You know firsthand what it's like to live under tyranny. You lost your entire family in World War II, didn't you, Barry? Tell people about that.
Well, my family originates from Europe, and they were over in Poland at the time of World War II. And if it wasn't for my grandfather understanding, not really understanding, but sensing sovereignty and having an open mind, I wouldn't be talking to you now. And nor am I suggesting by any stretch of the imagination of turning tail and running. But, a foolish general kills his last soldier. A smart general learns to retreat and fight when the time is correct. And there are grandfathering laws. So what we're encouraging people to do, you'll notice how fast laws are changing. But as laws change, they always take effect on that day and beyond. So anybody who's started prior to it is grandfathered in. That's what we're suggesting. Options are always an incredible benefit to anybody, whether it's financial or whether it's safety. And I've always been an advocate of promoting the safest place to view a war is from a great distance. It doesn't mean you still can't actively be fighting it. People are not going to be fighting gun control. They're going to be seizing weapons by just making you a felony. It's going to be a felony. They're going to seize the bank account. They're going to stop the driver's license. You won't be able to sell or buy property. You won't be able to clear a title. And then they're going to start wondering, is that old rusted 45 really worth all of this? And that's what 95% of the people are going to be doing. They're not going to be going door to door and killing people. They don't have the manpower for that. They're going to do it through the paper shuffle.
Yeah, that's exactly what our friend Mark S. Mann has said, is that they will just outlaw guns slowly, first the ammunition, then various calibers, and before long everything will just be color of law banned, and you'll be a felon if you don't turn it in. So, Barry, I think I'd be remiss not to ask you one very important point to those of us who have been stacking sovereign wealth, which is physical silver and or gold. For those of us who might be considering leaving this country for another destination, is there a safe way to get precious metals out of this country? Say the average stacker in our community who, has maybe 500 ounces. Let's just go with a monster box of silver. That weighs a lot, Barry. How do you get your precious metals out of this country, and can you? Is it even legal at this point?
That's a good question. The reason why I'm chuckling is just last week I took a monster box and a half back on a plane flight. I was just clearing up some last minute things over in the States. Actually, most people I've been stacking for over 15 years, and I've gained to actually meet some of the most knowledgeable people on shipping metals in and out of the country. Myself, I stock American coins and Canadian coins in terms of what you would call junk silver, in terms of liberties. The reason being, most people aren't aware of it. When you try to ship bars, rounds, anything out of a country, it's irrelevant what you're taking out of the country, because you don't fill out the forms until you're on the plane. So you've already exited the country. That's one popular misconception. Secondly, when you arrive into several countries, including the Dominican Republic, your coins are based on face value. If you bring in bars, rounds, or anything else, it's based on the value of silver. So I took in a monster box and a half, and it was $750. which of course is worth considerably more than that.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's why we like to have guys like you on, Barry. Barry, if there's anyone listening who has specific questions for you, how do people get a hold of you should they have any specific questions about the Dominican Republic or other things?
Well, the easiest way to get a hold of me would be through the website. Just make a comment, and I personally answer them back. Plus, it's secure. That's what a lot of my audience appreciates. And if you want, you can cite me. It's just Barry Solomon, SOLOMAN, or you can email me at blsolomon@gmail.com.
I think getting your information out there and making people aware of who you are and how to find your website, I think is going to be very beneficial for those who maybe at this point have decided that the time for getting is good, and I certainly understand that. So Barry and DR, thank you so much, and let's keep in touch.
Sean, it's been a pleasure, and I hope to speak with you again soon.
All right, take care, Barry.
You too.
Thanks so much for watching. Together we can take liberty back. And check out my new website, thelibertymill.com. Real news 24/7. Thanks for watching.